When I look at my comments and I look at the demographics of who is watching and subscribing to my channel, a large portion are not conservatives. And they comment and they'll DM me and they'll say, you know what, I'm more of a centrist, or I'm a liberal, but things are kind of confusing and you're providing common sense. Whether or not they are fully coming over to the conservative side, it's a lot of people like Joe Rogan and Tulsi Gabbard and Tim Pool, and these people that are disgruntled liberals, basically. That, might still have left-leaning, ideas on some things, but they are realizing that 1%, the very radical, the loud progressive left, that they're insane.
What's up, everybody? Major Retired Richard Ojeda here, and Brett Cooper, a right-wing commentator and host on the Huckabee Show, got a little confused as to who is conservative versus who is not.
Politicians are so scared of that 1% because they are so loud, because they are like I said, insane, and they worry that, they're going to destroy their reputation, so they have to bend a knee to them. And finally, I think the mainstream public is waking up and realizing, oh my God, what am I subscribing to? This is crazy.
Yeah.
2-year-olds are changing their gender? No.
Those listed, Tim Pool, Tulsi Gabbard, Joe Rogan, and none of these names are prevailing voices on the left. Let's make that point very, very clear. Describing these folks as disgruntled liberals is as off as calling a type of frog a mountain chicken. True story, by the way. Joe Rogan has been vocal in the last year about supporting Republicans, even saying to vote Republican.
So what do you tell those people? Vote Republican.
He's made asinine comments about the COVID-19 pandemic, welfare programs, and a slew of other nonsense that his dull-brained listeners cling to with every fiber in their being. He may be an okay television host or even commentator on sports, but his opinions on socioeconomics have no grounds in the real world. When was the last time you think Joe Rogan worried about being able to pay his bills? This is all you need to know on that one. Tulsi Gabbard, aside from her bid for president in 2020, is very much not an ally of the Democratic Party's views. As a matter of fact, her views have been all over the place in the last 20 years. Namely, her support for the LGBTQ community has fluctuated depending on how much she can get on Fox News.
I hereby, you can raise your right hand, you're definitely a conservative. So, anyway.
Always a pleasure, Sean.
She campaigned and apologized to the gay community for her anti-gay views before her run for president. But after losing the nomination, she immediately went back to fighting against the community and coasted that hate right onto every interview she could score with Tucker Carlson.
May have seen in the news recently, or you may be a parent who's experienced how parental rights are under attack all across the country as the government tries to usurp parents' rights and responsibility to raise their own children. Now, we should all support the Parental Rights and Education Bill that recently passed in Florida, which very simply bans government and government schools from indoctrinating woke sexual values in our schools to a captive audience.
We were already down that one. She has been vindictive and spiteful and angry towards Democrats. She's attacked our infrastructure. I thought certainly in the last primary, in the 2020 primary, that she would have been a lot happier if Donald Trump had ended up winning. She does things that are completely inexplicable. I'm certainly not going to sit here and say that she has any direct ties to Russia, but I don't know how you end up in a position where they refer to you as our girlfriend on Russian state TV.
You can't control that.
Yes, you can. You can control what you say.
How?
You can
go to Russia and tell them, please don't say those things?
No, you could do things like not go on television and say that what we're doing here in the U.S. in terms of the free press isn't that different from what's going on in Russia.
So we, being the Biden administration, we have sent billions to Ukraine to protect their borders, even as we have opened our own to the world. Why are we doing this exactly? Well, as Joe Biden has told us repeatedly, doing his Winston Churchill imitation, we're doing it to protect democracy. But of course, the irony here is Ukraine is not a democracy in any recognizable sense. Now, the Ukrainian government has decided that they can impose censorship in our country. The Ukrainian government has issued a blacklist of so-called Russian propagandists, Americans. That list includes Rand Paul, Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky, Tulsi Gabbard, who's serving in the U.S. military, and Glenn Greenwald, among many others.
Ukraine has released a list of Russian propagandists, and some of the names on the list might surprise you, or they might not. I'm Yasmin Khan with Rebel HQ, and both Tulsi Gabbard, a former representative from Hawaii, and the current senator from Kentucky, Rand Paul, were listed as two notable Americans that Kyiv claims push Russian propaganda. Is this even an I told you so moment? Is it even surprising? It shouldn't be. Tulsi Gabbard has always been an interesting character. She was elected to her state's House of Representatives when she was just 21 years old, becoming the youngest person in her state to do so. She went on to become a representative on the national level, becoming the first Hindu to do so, and she served in the military, completing 2 tours of duty in the Middle East. Running and serving as a Democrat, Tulsi has long been getting the side eye from a lot of people for being a Republican plant, a dino a la Manchin or Sinema who had the added benefit of appealing to several marginalized groups in the United States. Tulsi is a woman, she's a millennial, and she's a woman of color. And not just that, she's a Hindu. People who look like me aren't very prominent in the federal government, let me tell you, but I don't know if Tulsi was the brown heroine that any of us were hoping for. She became a regular on Fox News, though not necessarily as a Democratic pundit who was trying to break through the noise that is Fox News. She was seen as someone who could potentially appeal to traditional Democratic voters while indoctrinating them with neo-traditional Republican values. And if you listen to the things she says on Fox News these days, they're simply not recognizable as Democratic talking points, nor are they representative of the values of the Democratic Party.
You don't sound like a Democrat to me. I hereby, you can raise your right hand, you're definitely a conservative. So, anyway,
Always a pleasure, Sean.
Now, for a recent list of hits, she's defended the MAGA insurrectionists when the Biden administration said that they were the most extreme political organization in the United States. She's called Ukraine's embattled President Volodymyr Zelensky an authoritarian while questioning why Ukraine could possibly want to join NATO at this time and why the U.S. is supportive of the move. She said that Hillary Clinton and the deep state conspire with the media to suppress opposition. She was upset that Steve Bannon was charged with contempt of Congress because other Democratic operatives who have committed, at least in her mind, similar misdeeds have not been charged with anything. She spoke at a rally in support of Our Bodies, Our Sports, an anti-trans organization that works to, quote, keep women's sports female. And then there was this clip that went viral from Russian state TV where the host introduced a clip of her speaking with Tucker Carlson as our girlfriend Tulsi before alleging that she is indeed a Russian agent.
Президент Байден просто вслух озвучил цели своей администрации, которые заключаются в смене власти в России и в отстранении Путина от власти.
I will say, I never trusted her, and I always remember this one interaction she had with Hillary Clinton, an interaction that she actually sued Hillary over, but later ended up dropping the suit. Hillary and members of her team had insinuated back in 2019 that Tulsi was being groomed as a Russian agent, either wittingly or unwittingly. When Tulsi was confronted about this in an interview on The View, her response was this, quote, "Let me say how offensive it is to say that I'm a witting or unwitting asset of a foreign country, working against the interests of my country, a country that I am willing to lay my life down for." So if you are saying it's not deliberately, then you are implying that I am too stupid and too naive to lack the intelligence to know what I am doing. And that is extremely offensive to me and to every woman of color. I was never entirely sure why she looped in all women of color in her statement, but I didn't appreciate being involved in whatever grift Tulsi was trying to pull.